Welcome to Better Than Ever Live, wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening. Hope you're making today your masterpiece. On today's show, we're going to talk about how nutrients in your diet affect your mental and physical health. We'll talk about the relationship between omega-3 fatty acids and B vitamins, fruits that help you get rid of obesity and decrease your risk of diabetes, your diet quality and how it affects your risk of breast cancer, drinking water before you go to bed, and how brushing your teeth before bed improves your longevity. I'm Dr. David Geier, double board certified orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine specialist, and media medical expert. I help you feel and perform your best regardless of age, injury, or medical history. As always, please understand in today's show, in this live stream, and every video I do, I'm not giving you medical advice. This is meant for general information and educational purposes only. If you have comments about any of the studies that we talk about in this live stream, please leave those in the chat. I'd love for you to give your first name and where you're located, along with your comment or question, so we can get to know you a little bit. If you have an orthopedic question, remember, tomorrow's Friday. Join us at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for Ask Dr. Geier Live, the one place, the one time that I answer orthopedic questions about injuries, surgeries, rehab, recovery, you name it. I explain it to you. Again, not medical advice, but then you can take that information to your doctor, and that is only on YouTube. So if you're watching this show on Facebook or on LinkedIn, that is only on YouTube on Fridays, and there is no podcast version for that. Sarah is here from North Carolina. Good to see you. I actually lived for a long time in High Point, North Carolina, and then Winston-Salem, and I went to college in Winston-Salem at Wake Forest. So love the state of North Carolina. All right, let's talk about nutrients in your diet and how they affect not just your physical health, but your mental health. And this was a study that's one of those, I don't know that what it said at the end was all that groundbreaking, but I still think it has an important sort of take-home message. So basically, we know that what you eat plays a large role in how you feel. Not necessarily from a clinical standpoint, but just you're happy, you're sad, that kind of thing. Well, there was a new study published in the European Journal of Nutrition that looked specifically at what people ate and whether or not that played a role in mental health. And this is a big deal because we've watched, especially over the pandemic, our mental health gradually decline. Rates of mental health issues have gone higher than ever. So we need to be looking into, hey, what is linked to this? What is associated with this? What can we fix that potentially would make that better? Now, we have seen in previous studies that, hey, increased sugar consumption might be linked to anxiety, at least in young adults, but we don't really have that much information on macronutrients, all the different components of our food and whether they're linked to mental health. So what these researchers did, they took basically adults 18 years old and older and compared what they ate in terms of macronutrients and then looked at, hey, no anxiety disorder, pure anxiety disorder, or did they have anxiety disorder as part of something else? And compared to the group that had no anxiety at all, a significantly higher percentage of energy from carbs, higher intake of total carbs, higher intake of sugars, higher intake of plant-based protein, lower intake of fat, lower intake of saturated fats and monounsaturated fats, lower intake of cholesterol were observed in the comorbid anxiety group. Now, I don't know necessarily what to make of this. The sugar part maybe doesn't surprise me. Eating lots of carbs, eating a higher percentage of your calories from carbs, maybe not that surprising. Having more animal-based protein, more saturated, monounsaturated fats, more cholesterol, I don't know that necessarily I know what to make of that. What I would tell you is generally try to eat more whole foods. Try to eat more, or less, I should say, of the ultra-processed foods, the chips, the pretzels, the frozen foods, the packaged meats, the soft drinks, those kinds of things. I would suspect when you really, if you can really get down to a granular level and see specifically what the foods are, those are potentially the foods that are the best. Sarah is on the coast on Wilmington. Love Wilmington. Obviously, I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, so on the coast as well. Wilmington's beautiful. Love, love, love Wilmington. All right, omega-3 fatty acids and B vitamins, both of things that I think are helpful for almost anybody. Again, not medical advice. I just feel like for so many people, they're really helpful. And when it comes to mental health and keeping your brain functioning well, they're really getting much better than B vitamins in terms of just how well your brain does, but your metabolism, sleep, so many things that your mood, energy play a role in. Well, there was a study in the European Journal of Nutrition looking specifically at vitamin B12 and folic acid supplements and how they support cognitive health. But specifically, they wanted to see how it was related to omega-3 fatty acids and whether or not that played a role in how well the B vitamins helped cognitive function. So they took almost 200 adults, these were older adults, 65 years old and older, and then gave them basically different amounts of folic acid, B12, or a placebo, did this for 2 years. And what they found is the adults that had the highest levels of DHA, one of the omega-3 fatty acids, the highest levels, they had the best what we call nootropic effect, cognitive protection, brain function from their B vitamin supplement regimen, specifically again the folic acid and vitamin B12. Now, how do you get higher levels of DHA? Well, you can do a couple things. We can't really make a lot of DHA because alpha linoleic acid can only be converted in a small amount to DHA, so we have to consume it. Now, that's really not that hard if you eat a lot of fish, anchovies, sardines, salmon, tons of it. Shellfish have tons of omega-3 fatty acids. Some people can do that. A lot of people can't or don't. So then you're talking about an omega-3 supplement, and that can be a good way to do it. I think there's some that are probably better than others. That's really a subject for a different day, but both of those can be really helpful. Most people get enough B vitamins through multivitamins or get pretty good levels. You can get B vitamins through foods, but you need to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables to do that. But both of those are worth looking into, in this case, for better brain function. And who doesn't want to have better brain function, quite honestly? All right, speaking of fruits specifically, when we're talking fruits and vegetables as B vitamins, a new study in the July issue of Food Research International looks at certain fruits that might actually help us reduce our obesity and lower our risk of diabetes. What these researchers found is that both fruits and vegetables high in polyphenols were good for that. These are compounds that we find in fruits, some vegetables, that act as basically antioxidants. They protect the body, they protect our tissues against oxidative stress, and that's so important for certain cancers, cardiovascular disease, inflammation. So what these researchers did is that they investigated the effects of polyphenols in different fruits and different vegetables, but in this case, it was on reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes and obesity. And what they found is, in addition to reducing oxidative stress, polyphenols play a significant role in reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes and obesity. And they thought largely it's because it interferes with leptin, basically the hormone that tells you, the signal that tells you, hey, I'm full. So in theory, if you can eat these fruits that have high levels of polyphenols, maybe that suppresses your hunger, reduces your food intake, lowers your risk of obesity. And those polyphenols are involved in the sort of the breakdown of fats through fatty acid oxidation. That might help reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, reduce the risk of obesity, improve fat metabolism. So if you're going to eat fruits, and I know there are diets, the slow carb diet, keto, that are really anti-fruit, but if you're going to eat fruits, and I am more of the Mediterranean diet philosophy, and I think fruits in that sense are good, but you want to maybe pick ones with polyphenols. So what fruits are those? Well, they're the sort of the low glycemic index fruits, the berries, the blueberries, black currant, blackberries, chokeberry, I don't really know chokeberries very well, elderberries, and apples, all high in polyphenols. Speaking of diet, let's talk a little bit about diet and breast cancer risk. I think this is really important as well. We know that we are what we eat, but we don't really talk about what we eat in terms of how it affects our risk of specific diseases. And in this case, potentially the risk of cancer. Well, there was a new study that was presented at the Nutrition 2022 Live Conference. It's the annual meeting of the American Society of Nutrition. And what they found, this shouldn't be really surprising, but the quality of your diet may be a key to the role in breast cancer. Researchers looked at differentiating healthy plant-based foods, whole grains, fruit, vegetables, nuts, legumes, vegetable oils, tea, coffee, all healthy, and then plant-based foods that were not so healthy. And I would argue these are not really plant-based foods. There's very little plant in them. But fruit juices, refined grains like white bread, potatoes, sugar-sweetened beverages like soft drinks, desserts. They took over 65,000 women after they went through menopause who were in France. They filled out dietary questionnaires from 1993 to 2005. They followed them for over 21 years. Of those 65,000 plus, over those 21 years, almost 4,000 of them developed breast cancer, a really high number actually. And based on the data from those 65,000 women who were tracked for more than 2 decades, no surprise, a healthy plant-based diet was linked to a 14% lower risk of breast cancer. On the other hand, unhealthy plant-based foods, 20% higher risk of breast cancer. And it was consistent across all different types of breast cancer. Basically, eating healthy plant foods decrease your risk of breast cancer. So what they're arguing, decreasing your consumption of the unhealthy foods, maybe decreasing your consumption of animal foods, might help you prevent breast cancer. I mean, let's be fair. If you're going to eat plant-based foods, at least eat whole foods, at least vegetables and maybe whole grains and nuts and seeds and legumes, and not, again, the processed foods that I would argue. Potato chips shouldn't even have the word potato in them. There's barely any potato in them. They are just a processed delivery mechanism for fats and salts. It really, and bad oils for you is really, and I'm not picking on chips specifically, but all of those foods. Try to eat more whole foods that are healthy. All right, let's talk about a couple things. We'll wrap up with a couple things to do or not to do before you go to bed that may affect your health. And the first one is drinking water. This was an interview I saw, not a research study, but it was an interview with a sleep specialist at the Cleveland Clinic, Jessica Rundo, and she's talking about the pros and cons of drinking a lot of water before bed. Now, the conventional rule of thought is stop drinking water 2 hours before you go to bed. Otherwise, you have all this fluid in your system. Then you're going to have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Sometimes getting up in the middle of the night, maybe not such a big deal, but if it keeps you from going back to sleep, that's not such a really good thing. So the rule, like I said, is if you're going to have any water before you go to bed, in the 2 hours before you go to bed, have it be less than a glass of water, small sips at a time. Now, the question is, how important is that water right before you go to bed? Because again, if it means you're going to get up in the middle of the night, not so, especially multiple times, not such a good thing. Now, if your sleep is constantly interrupted because you're drinking a lot at night, that becomes a problem. You're not getting good quality sleep. Your overall time of sleep is not good. Then your immune system starts to have trouble. That's where your physical performance starts to wane the next day. Better way to do it would be to maybe drink throughout the day. But there are some upsides, she says, about drinking before you go to bed. It cleanses your body, helps flush out stuff in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, so the next morning you can get rid of those toxins out of your body, and potentially you're hydrated so that an early morning workout, something like that, you might be able to sweat out some of those toxins. Plus, if you're the type that tends to run warm as far as your body temperature, or you're in a warm bedroom, warm house somewhere, and it's hard to cool it, that glass of water at night might help keep your body temperature a little bit cooler, making it easier to go to sleep, easier to stay asleep. An alternative to that might be, instead of drinking a glass of water before you go to bed, maybe you just suck on an ice cube or something like that before you go to bed. And again, I'll say this again, what I would really stress is not drinking before you go to bed, just drink steadily throughout the day. Drink water with every meal, or maybe 30 minutes before or 30 minutes after every meal. I know a lot of people think that's a better way to go as far as digesting your food more fully and not having GI issues. After exercise, make sure you replace your fluids that you lost through sweats, and a lot of fruits and vegetables, because you get a lot of water that way. And then the last one I think is kind of funny, and this is about another habit before you go to bed that might help you live longer. Yeah, it's apparently true. There's research that just came out in the Journal of Aging that good oral health helps you live longer and contributes to longevity. These researchers looked at the dental health behaviors and the teeth, the actual arrangement and condition of the teeth in over 5,600 older adults. They did this from 1992 to 2009 and then calculated longevity risks, mortality risk. And what they found is brushing your teeth before you go to bed has a significant influence on longevity. Even more than brushing your teeth, flossing your teeth before you went to bed was an even bigger link to longevity than brushing your teeth. But never brushing your teeth at night, 20 to 35% higher risk of mortality compared to people that brush their teeth every night. Never flossing, 30% increased risk of mortality compared to the people that do floss. Not seeing a dentist in the last 12 months, 30 to 50% increased mortality compared to seeing a dentist 2 or more times over the last year. And, this is probably not surprising, mortality increased among people who were missing teeth. And the more teeth they lost, especially if they had no teeth and a mouthful of dentures, 30% higher risk of death compared to those with 20 or more teeth. So the status of your teeth, what you do to take care of them, very, very important to your health and longevity. Sarah, you're so welcome. And I see you said Fisher got a good one. So if you're Fisher, I apologize. But I very much appreciate this. If you're like the Wilmington folks, the good ones, and you like this kind of information, health, wellness, nutrition, exercise, sleep, mental health, aging, longevity. Sometimes we talk regenerative medicine and anti-aging because that's something I now specialize in. If you like any kind of information like this, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Click the bell to be notified when I start a live stream because occasionally do that spontaneously. Tell your friends also. And remember to check out Better Than Ever Live as a podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Stitcher, Google, Spotify, anywhere. I mean, there's like 20 different podcast platforms that the show's on. You can listen to it if you can't be here live. If you do have an orthopedic problem and it's more than you just want to show up for Ask Dr. Geier Live Fridays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, but you actually want to see me as a patient, the link to my website, drdavidgeier.com, it's not on this, but drdavidgeier.com, it's in the description below. Go to that, click the contact page, fill that out. It gets to my assistant, and we can help you set up an appointment here in Charleston, South Carolina. You'll love it. It's a great place. Somebody from California came to see me today, so you'll like it. And he was great, and it's going to be a great relationship. I'd love to help you that way as well. And she says she tagged her son. I really appreciate that. Very much appreciate it. Remember, if you have orthopedic questions, problems, that kind of thing, join us at noon Eastern Time tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll be back here again next Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of Better Than Ever Live. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and I will see you soon. Take care.